Hey folks, how you doing? So this is session number 4, I do believe, in the E3 Cultures of Leadership model, where I'm sharing with you each of the 21 drivers that are going to allow you to facilitate what we describe as a culture of leadership. And a reminder or an introduction for anybody who's coming to this video as the first that you've seen on the series, is that a culture of leadership is one where the majority of people in your team or your organization, regardless of whether they hold a management title or not, will commit autonomous acts of leadership. Right? And an act of leadership is simply taking the initiative, taking ownership, taking responsibility, taking accountability, doing what needs to be done in the moment, which is in the best interests of all concerned. So it's not about being selfish. It's not about doing what they want to do for their own benefit, but it's about doing it for the benefit of everybody, for themselves, for the team, for the organization, for clients, for shareholders, customers, whatever it may be, right? And what my many years of research and then subsequent years of working with organizations in helping create this culture of leadership was that when you get a critical mass of your people to a point in time where they're comfortable to commit autonomous acts of leadership, so of their own free will, giving this holy grail called discretionary effort, the outcomes from that are absolutely phenomenal. So I'm going to go to share screen now, and we will take a look at the next in the series. And what we're going to be looking at today and talking about today, I'm actually going to do 2 together today. So it's around creating a purposeful objective and then developing sound strategies and plans. And I did kind of touch on this just a little bit when I did the roundup of the entire 21, but I'll dig into a little bit more detail. Right. So again, just as a backdrop, when if I go back, yep, there we go. That's not what I wanted. But if I go to, let's do this. Sorry, folks, this is taking much longer than I would hope if I do this. Okay, so in order for your people to consistently display acts of leadership, they're going to need to, in the very first instance, feel a sense of purpose, confidence, and action. And as a consequence, they will be, at least in principle, engaged to go on the journey. Okay? From there, we're going to want to ensure that they're enabled to committing their role to a level of excellence, and then finally that they're empowered to pursue their full potential, right, in their role or even as a human being. And so we know that for you as a leader, you need to, and I covered this in one of the early videos, know and explain the situation, right? But from there, what we need to do is create a purposeful objective, right? And what we're talking about in terms of purposeful, what's a purposeful objective? I'm not talking about purpose as in, again, Simon sin X, Y. That absolutely is gold. And so I'm not taking away for one moment from what Simon has to say there. But in this particular instance, and particularly right here, right now, I need to know that the things you're asking us to pursue, the things you're asking us to deliver to the business right now are deliberate, that they are considered, and that they are on purpose, right? Deliberately on purpose, right? And the way that I'll know that is that I can see a direct connection between the objectives you're setting and the situation we find ourselves in today, right? If this is our situation, but you're asking us to spend time delivering this outcome, right? Diametrically opposed, now I'm confused. If I'm confused, I'm not engaged, right? And so the objectives that you're setting here need to be purposeful, right? They need to have a very clear connection to the situation in which we find ourselves, right? Particularly important at the moment is that, and so it doesn't come out quite as clearly in the leader version, but what you're wanting to end up with is that your people see your objectives as, yes, being purposeful, but also being realistic. Okay, what we find with a lot of business owners, if you've done any kind of management development, any kind of leadership development, is you've probably been taught the notion that you've got to raise the high bar. right? We've got to constantly be resetting, recalibrating, and raising the high bar for our people to kind of, keep on growing and that whole continuous improvement notion. And I do not disagree with that. However, what I do disagree with is the setting of a goal which feels unattainable. Okay. In one of the earlier videos, I think it was the very first video I did in this series, I spoke about the Australian cultural norm, where in Australia, we are not obsessed with succeeding. We are, in fact, obsessed with not failing. Okay. And so if you set something which, we've all heard that term BHAG, the big, hairy, audacious goal. If you go setting BHAGs for your people, particularly now in this current environment, if I feel that it's unattainable, if I think it's unrealistic, if I think it's unachievable, guess what? I'm not even going to step out on the first step of that journey, right? I'm not going to do it. Now, I'm not going to say that to you, right? But I am going to quietly withdraw. And you will neither see me nodding nor shaking my head when in a group setting, particularly, you're asking, are we all on? Everybody on board? We're good? Yeah? You won't see me nod and you won't see me shake my head. I will become passive, okay? I'll just shrink quietly. If I don't think that what you're asking us to deliver has got a snowball's chance in hell of being delivered, I'm not going to tell you that because you're my boss, right? And we're mistrustful of people in positions of authority, and we're cynical about the boss's agendas and all those sorts of things. It's deeply ingrained. And this stressful time in which we find ourselves today isn't going to change that, right? So if I don't think that what you're setting has got a realistic possibility of being delivered, then I'm probably not going to engage in the journey in the first place. Now, when I say realistic, do I understand that we're going to have to put in extra effort? Cool. Yeah, I get that. Absolutely, I know. Do I understand that we're probably going to need to do it on a smaller budget than we had as little as a month ago? Yeah, I get that. That's cool. Do I understand that maybe I'm going to need to work longer hours, or that there's going to be some degree of added stress? Yeah, I get that, right? That's realistic. That's realism. So I know that I'm going to have to do those things. It's not going to be easy. So we're not saying here that you set goals that are just dead easy, right? But right now, it's not about setting goals for any reason other than attending to your situation, right? And your situation at the moment is probably different to what it was a month ago. For most of you, not everybody. Some people are doing incredibly well right now, and perhaps you can set slightly higher goals. You can capitalize, on the situation that presents itself, because that's what your business is attuned to. Your business is in that space right now where it should be stepping up and delivering its very, very best. Okay, but for the vast majority of you watching this right now, your situation is probably somewhat more negative than it was a month ago. And so, setting an unrealistic expectation with your people is going to be problematic. So don't do that. Don't waste your time, your energy, or your emotion. And particularly understand that your people aren't going to tell you if they don't believe that the goals are achievable, right? We're passive aggressive here. We vote with our feet, not with our voice, okay? So once you've got clarity around what are the objectives that we're wanting to achieve right now, and again, remember that what we're talking about here is something that might be a week away, it may be a fortnight away, it might be a month away. At the very most, I'm going to suggest to you focus on the next 90 days only. We'll deal with day 180 on day 91. Right now, stay focused on the next 90-day horizons. What is it that you want us as the team to be focused on delivering? What needs to be achieved within the next week? What needs to be achieved within the next fortnight? What needs to be achieved within the next month? And 3 months at the very most. From there, once we've got clarity around that, and once we have bought into the idea that this is both purposeful, connects back to this, and it's realistic, albeit with a degree of effort, what you've got to do next is make sure that you are developing sound strategies and plans. I touched on this again a little bit when I did the overview, but to kind of go back to it again. What is a sound strategy and plan? Primarily for the Aussie context, it's a plan that has actually thought about all of the things that could and most definitely will go wrong. Okay, lots of things going wrong at the moment, lots of things kind of beginning to implode, lots of things sticky, challenging, worrying, lots of people no longer able to deliver, in your kind of chain of events, lots of people starting to fail and not be able to deliver to you right now. But if I go back even as little as 3 months ago, in the 12 months leading up to that point 3 months ago, I guarantee you, even when things were going swimmingly well by comparison, there were still things going wrong. There were things that failed. There were people who let you down. There were, that team over there who never deliver anything on time, or that team over there who always deliver slightly substandard work. Okay, there's always things that go wrong in business and in the place of work. And one of the greatest criticisms that Australian employees have of their managers, their leaders, their bosses, is the fact that for some reason, you people never seem to plan for the bullshit that goes wrong, that always goes wrong. Now, why you couldn't have predicted that that was going to go wrong, and again, if I take you back and get you to think about all the things that went wrong over the preceding 12 months up till about 3 months ago, there is no way in the world you would say that any of them, or at least the majority of them, were unpredictable. That had never happened before. That was, oh my God, that's never happened before. Crap. Most of the things that go wrong in most businesses are Groundhog Day. It's repetition, 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 which for some reason we're not learning about. So one of the key things that's going to determine whether or not your people buy into your plans, your strategies right now for the current situation is whether you've thought about the stuff that can and will go wrong. If you've built that into your plan, and if you, as you show your people your plan, and in particular, as you spend time with your black hat on, maybe even invite them to put their black hats on and share with you from their own personal experience the things that are going to go wrong. Once you've made provision for that, once you've either thought, okay, yeah, you're right, that does keep going wrong, so how do we do that differently? Or B, yeah, that does often go wrong, so how are we going to react when and if it does? Once you do that, your people will be confident in your strategies and plans, okay? So if I understand the situation, if I understand the reality of our circumstances right now, if you're not hiding things from me, you're telling me the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. If subsequently I see that the objectives you're asking us to focus on are clearly purposeful, linking back to this, and the objectives have a reasonable degree of reality, albeit with some kind of stretch activity. If I then see that the plans you developed are well considered, well thought out, and have thought about all the things that will go wrong, you continue to have my engagement. My mind, in principle, is in the game. Okay? So I hope all of that makes some sense. As ever, I really do welcome any questions, any comments whatsoever, whatever platform you're seeing this on, please, please, please engage with me. Make me use my brain and share answers with you. Alrighty, stay well, everybody.